Hello and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program in the series that we're calling KSP POV. Today is going to be a very exciting one. In the last episode we attempted to send some Kerbals to the Mun, and it ended fairly tragically. So this time we are going to upgrade our rockets and get it so that way we can actually make it to orbit and hopefully push ourselves all the way to the Mun and come back. So I'm fast forwarding time right now to complete that contract, but for some reason the other ScanSat contract is not completing. I end up figuring that out in the following episode, the next one from this one. So we'll deal with that later. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and open up our lander again, but this time we are going to completely redesign the lifting stage. And instead of more boosters, we're just going to do bigger ones. So we got our nice big Rockomax tank here and the Bullard engine. And that was the engine that we were using before, but with much less fuel. And so, and we were, for the side boosters, we were just using, oh yeah, I guess we were using Bullards as well. But the amount of fuel is going to end up making a huge difference. So we go ahead and throw on some flea boosters again, like before, acting as Separatrons, since we don't have them unlocked yet. And just go ahead and do my asparagus staging. Rename it to the Dreamer 2, and we have Dillpond as our pilot since Maxning is no longer with us, and we're going to go ahead and just do a test flight, and here are just the highlights of it. You know, I just wanted to make sure that the rocket was able to get to orbit this time. So it got up, it got circularized. We were even able to change our inclination, because we came in at a funky inclination, set our burn for the Mun, and even was able to do a capture burn. If you notice, I still have enough Delta V to just do that all on that stage. What we did end up having a problem with was solar panels. Since we only had the two, we ran into a time where we weren't angled towards the sun correctly, and we lost power even though we had our panels extended. So I just go ahead and add those to the side to give us four-way coverage. I do forget to add it to the action group. Oh, the craft is too heavy now since we upgraded our rocket. So now we're going to spend a chunk of money and upgrade our launch pad. So now it can hold an unlimited weight. So I go ahead and just check my staging. Once again, this is the lander that we built in the last episode. If you're wondering how we came to this design and you missed it, go ahead and check out that last episode. So we are ready to go. And like the namesake, we are going to be playing this in the first-person perspective point of view. And we are using the ASET mod and the raster prop monitor mod and a series of others. As always, the mods can be found in the description below. So yeah, this is going to be our second episode where we use the Mach 1 command pod, and it's a refreshing change from, oh, this is the Mach 1 lander can as well. But it's a refreshing change from having done practically this whole series in the mission control room, doing probes. It's nice to have different buttons and actual Kerbals to control. And our scientist for today is named Lagerbert. So that is fun. So Nilpond and Lagerbert. Every now and then I would get this glitch where I would see the Kerbal's eyeball floating. I was able to fix that just by going back out to the EVA view, not in EVA mode, but the EVA view, and then come back. You see that eyeball right there? Yep, so I just flip, and then I come back and it's fixed. So yeah, so we have a nice steady takeoff with these Bullard engines and the large mass. It's a lot. It's fairly easy to control and to tip over to start the gravity burn. And since there's 4 of them, there's definitely enough thrust to weight ratio to get us up there. So we have a nice little clean separation thanks to those flea boosters pushing those away from us. And before we know it, our apoapsis has broken the atmosphere. We are a little bit lower than I'd like to be. I don't like being 20,000 meters above the surface and already breaking atmosphere. I'd like to be a little bit higher, but what can you do? Successful separation in that second stage brings us all the way up to 100 kilometers. And then we're going to go ahead and use the MechJeb to circularize our burn. And we make the mistake here of deciding to use MechJeb to automate the process and execute the burn. Right here. Execute. So we do that, and it ends up not taking. For some reason it doesn't execute. So we decide to kill the MechJeb and execute it ourselves. But the problem you'll see soon is that the maneuver node is, or the craft is locked maneuver node. We went ahead and hit deploy now that we're in space, so we have our solar panels all set. But the problem is that the maneuver node was pointing a little too low, and by the time I passed my apoapsis, it was pointed down too much, and I was worried that we might not be able to circularize. So I'm coming here and I'm trying to kill it, but I can't access my SAS for some reason. It keeps turning off. And so now, for the remainder of this burn, I'm going to be flipping around trying to figure out what I can do to regain control of my SAS. I'm thinking that there's a lock somewhere. So I'm opening up all different parts of MechJeb to see if I can cancel out the burn. Well, the burn is already canceled. MechJeb is already told that it's not going to be executing the maneuver. This right here is all manual control, manual burning. But I'd like to lift my nose up. I'd like to lift just a little bit higher than my prograde and get myself get my orbit raised before I just rocket straight back down to the surface. So I'm starting to freak out a little bit, thinking that our second mission is also going to be a failure. Wondering if I'm going to be able to even regain control of my craft to re-enter safely. And then that's when our orbit comes through, and we make it. We bring our periapsis up to about 70 some odd meters. So we go ahead and we get it up to 84 meters. So yeah, so we go ahead and kill the engine. We still don't have SAS ability, and so that's a little concerning. But we decide to just forget that for now. I even exited the menu and exited to the main menu and came back. Didn't work. I was just looking at my TAC life support right there. We've got 34 days worth of supplies. So if this mission does make it to the MUN and goes haywire, and we end up stranding the Kerbals on the MUN, we have a little less than 34 days to get some sort of rescue mission, or at the very least resources out to them. Which isn't a lot. Definitely exacerbate things, so we are definitely hoping to avoid that situation. So I go ahead and plot in my transfer burn. Again, we still have that lower stage and decent chunk of fuel in that lower stage, so we're going to go ahead and just adjust the thrust limit, make it low, try to find the right balance between long enough burn that it's accurate, but not too long that you're just sitting there waiting forever. But of course you don't want to go too fast, otherwise you lose your accuracy. So went ahead and plugged that in, and I decided to use Flight Computer for this. I had the theory that maybe when Flight Computer was done, I could regain control of my SAS once I closed that out. So I go ahead and bring up my rendezvous screen here. It has all the information I need to capture, and I line up to my target. Dilpon does a little dance as he gets ready for the burn. There we go. It was a fairly slow burn, so we decided to just fast forward it, speed it up for y'all. So we come in at about 14 kilometers, so I just want to back that up a little bit, give myself a little bit more room. So I go ahead and flip around retrograde, and then just ever so slightly tap the throttle to bring myself to 22. Oh, it was at 10 kilometers, not 14. So go ahead and bring myself to 22 kilometers, which is, I know is safe enough. I think we can go lower without risking hitting anything, but 22 is a comfortable altitude for me. So yeah, still with our lower stage, we're plotting in our capture burn. It'll just barely use all our fuel. So yeah, it's a relatively efficient lifter design. We did end up leaving that lower stage as space trash, but there's not really much we can do. We didn't have enough delta V to drop it. Although we could have used some of the fuel from our lander stage to finish the descent. I guess not. Anyways, Dilpond or Lagerbert goes on an EVA, his very first or her very first EVA, and takes a crew report for science. Then we regain control of Dilpond, and we go ahead and time warp our way out to our maneuver. And then suddenly we run out of electricity. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. So I kill the maneuver on Flight Computer so that way we can regain control of SAS. And I try to rotate my craft a little bit to get the solar panels aligned. And we're using some electric charge more than we're producing, so I decide to kill the lights, and I go down to Lagerbert's cabin, and I try to kill the lights there. Also put the probe to hibernate upon warp, but that doesn't really do much for us. So now I'm here. I'm just trying to look around, trying to find where the lights are, and turn those off. But it still doesn't really do anything. It doesn't solve anything, and rotating the craft didn't do anything. So I come in here into MechJeb again, and reluctantly try to use the point towards sun command, but we have no charge, so not really much we can do. Luckily, we were able to control the solar panels from the outside, and like I said, I forgot to put those on the action group, so that's why they didn't extend initially. But once we extended those solar panels, we had more than enough charge. We were able to get back to the mission. So yeah, once again, just gonna time warp to the encounter. Only takes about a day or so. That's the nice thing about traveling to the Mun. And then once again, we're running out of solar power, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I see, just like in our episode 2 episodes ago, where we landed a probe on the Mun, we get another Kerbal solar eclipse, and it ends up killing our craft. But thankfully, all solar eclipse must end, and we're already orbiting, so we're not orbiting, but we have our maneuver plotted and inputted into the flight computer, so it's going to happen automatically. The small amount of electricity provided by the engine actually firing will be enough to keep it controlled and everything while it's going, and it'll just lose power after it's done. See, as you can see, we have all of our screens and our power right now, but that's just because of the engines. And with that, we have a very successful capture burn. The engine's turned off, so we lost power, but we are captured. We are now our first crewed orbit of the month. So Dilpon decides to stretch his legs, and in honor of Maxining, tries to do what she could not, and that is a safe and successful spacewalk. But he too starts losing control of his RCS pack. But after a harrowing turn, he manages to catch his hand onto the bar and safely returns back into his craft. So Lagerbert goes ahead and goes EVA as well, but she just goes and grabs the EVA report. And we time warp our way around the Mun because there's not really anything we can do with electricity dead craft. And then as we come around the corner, we spot a little spot on the sun. We wonder to ourselves, what is that? Is that a solar flare? Is that a cool spot on the sun? Or is that another celestial body that we should research and check out? It's a good thing that the Kerbals back at the lab are pointing their telescopes towards the skies, the observatory, and trying to learn as much as they can about what might be out there past the Mun. So we go ahead and kick off that lower stage. So now we have the stage that was meant to be our transfer stage. We now have as our lander stage, which should free up the 2 boosters on the side of the actual lander to have more than enough fuel for what they need to do. We could possibly even jump around if we wanted to. Possibly. We'll see how it goes. So go ahead and plot a maneuver to land in the far east side crater because it's just an easy place. You know, I know that the biome is there, and that way when we land our rovers or, you know, another crewed mission, we can just avoid that biome because we know we already have the science for it. Just keeping an eye on the Mun as we fly by using our external cams. Even though this is a crewed mission, we can just look out the windows. It's always nice to have a camera view. It will be extra nice because it's pointed downwards, so when we end up landing, we'll be able to use it to scope our landing situation, how far from the ground we are. So yeah, so now we have our impact collision course. We will be landing on the Mun, and how quickly is up to us. Dilpond is a 1-star pilot, orbited several times, so hopefully he'll be able to handle it. So I go ahead and get myself ready for the descent. The descent screen here, right front and center. The nav ball to the left is also very important. Make sure that we're keeping on track. This screen right up there in the top left is a little bit interchangeable in this landing can for landing right here. I do like to keep the vessel view to the right because that'll give me an idea if anything gets broken off my parts, or if my landing gear is down, because I will easily be able to see whether or not my landing gear is down. I went ahead and just fast forwarded a little bit because it was a slow, long descent down to the surface. Killing off some of my horizontal speed here just to get myself going more vertically, because this is a good area. I don't need to be too precise with where I go as long as I land in the East Crater. So I'm just adjusting the throttle a little bit to try to kill some of that horizontal velocity. And very soon, the fuel in that landing stage, the one that used to be our transfer stage, will be done, and we will just be launching it at the surface of the mud. One piece of space trash gone. So I turn on the cabin lights just to have a better view of everything, and I go ahead and hit the landing gear. And I start to notice the landing angle. It's not great. It's very high, and there's a strong possibility we're going to turn over. Oh, that little switch right there at the left that I just clicked locks our stages. Very helpful, because if we were to accidentally stage our rocket, we would lose our side boosters, which are our only way of propulsion. So I see that slope angle hit 24.76, and I hear the explosion of the fuel tank, and I decide let's just reposition ourselves so we're not coming down on the corner of a crater. And with that just small adjustment, I mean, I probably should have and could have done a little bit more, but with that small adjustment, we go ahead and flip around retrograde and manage our descent, because we are actually coming down fairly quickly. I thought I had more time, that's why I started burning now, just doing small little micro burns, which isn't the most efficient. It always is better to just do a fast full dump of your fuel at the last moment, as they call a suicide burn. That way you're not fighting gravity except for the very last moments of it. So that is the most efficient. But with this, we've had so much riding on this mission, and the fact that we ended up not having to dip into these fuel tanks until just now, I decided to allow myself a little. There's the Kraken peeking in through the corner of our views. But yeah, I decided to allow myself a little bit of an inefficient landing just to make sure that I actually landed. And coming on in, the shadow was very interesting. The landing legs made it look like a Cylon base star, if any of you are familiar with it. I thought that was kind of a fun little welcome to the mud. So at the very last second, we go ahead and cancel out our vertical velocity down to -1, and we make contact. We are the first Kerbals on the surface of the mud. We did it all in first person, the IVA mode. And so we have about 75 to 80% of our fuel left. Plenty of Delta V to make it home. Yeah, so we go ahead and do our science, and we transmit anything that's full science. We take back anything that we need to get home. And already we have 165 science. That's definitely enough to unlock something, one or two things that we could really use. I go ahead and check my contracts to see if I have anything else that I can complete while I'm here, and I even went to the mission control room to see if there was a plant the flag on the MUN contract, but sadly there wasn't, so we're just doing this in the name of exploration and science. So Dill Pond goes ahead and exits out, and is set to be the first Kerbal with the first footsteps on the MUN. Powders that silt between his feet. Under his feet. And very excitedly, he goes ahead, plants his flag. And with that, the expanse out into the stars is started. Kerbal will never be the same. So now that Dill Pond has claimed it for exploration, Lagerbert is going to claim it for science. Tries to figure out how to get out of this chair, and then climbs down. With an EVA report and a surface sample. Takes another look up at the sun and that little black spot on it. Wonders what it is. He's gonna have to go home and tell all the others to work faster on that. And so now it's time for Lagerbert to come back, but then she decides, why not take a quick look around here? Just for a moment. She gets a beautiful view of the expansive east side crater. She can't even see the edge of it. She knows that she's already going to be signing up for the second mission here. And with that, with science aboard, they are all ready to come back home. So go ahead and extend the lower solar panels. They were brought back in so that way the ladder had room to extend. And with a perfect launch window, the fact that they're pointed towards Kermin already, and with a generous amount of thrust to weight ratio, they ascend. And it doesn't really matter the ascent profile because we are just brute forcing our way through and achieving a lunar escape. It would have been better to come to orbit first and then raise our apoapsis or periapsis and come out that way. But we have more fuel than we know what to do with, so why not? And we possibly could have hopped to another biome, but then we would have potentially run the risk of not having enough fuel. And we've lost too many Kerbals already. We gotta keep this space agency's reputation in mind, of course. And now we are in orbit around Kerbin. No longer in the sphere of influence of the Mun. We have plenty of life support since we were only there for a little bit of time. So we can afford to actually make our burn at the apoapsis instead of just brute forcing our way through the periapsis. We go ahead and bring our orbit down to just above 70,000. Because what we're going to do is we're going to lower our orbit into just above the atmosphere, both the apoapsis and the periapsis. So we lose power again, and wouldn't you know it, another freaking eclipse. So we had the best launch window for these past couple missions. But you know, we have all of our solar panels out, so once we got to the other side of the dark spot, it was not a problem at all. More of an annoyance than anything. So yeah, bringing the orbit down, so we're at a nice slow speed, and then I drop the periapsis to about 41,000, and that will be perfect to bring us back down to the surface. I was supposed to test the Mach 1 lander can, what Lagerberg is sitting in right now, in Kerbin orbit. I was supposed to, that was one of the missions that we're going to do today, and the reason why I even have the lander can, but I ended up forgetting to do that. So that contract is not completed, however it has not expired yet either. So the bright news is that we'll have access to this lander can again, so we could possibly run a follow-up mission, land into a different biome, and come back with even more science. And then maybe even have enough science to unlock the lander can legitimately. Our ultimate goal, though, is to get the Alcor landing can. And here we go. We are on our path home. So we are all now tucked up, ready to descend through the atmosphere. Our radiators active, our communication dish stowed, our solar panel stowed, and our cargo bay closed. And our heat gauge is perfect. Like, our heat shield is only halfway heated up to its limit, and our crew cabinet has barely any heat at all. And then once I see it drop down, I know that we are safe. So our chutes are armed. Our craft has made it through the atmosphere. There's nothing left to do except hope. And there we have it. We've made contact. We have thrown our Kerbals and some metal, some experiments, and some rocket fuel at the mud and brought him back. We got a whole mess of science while doing it. Well, that is where I'm going to leave y'all. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.